All right, folks, here we go. This is part 2 of the interview live yesterday on our live show, Coming Apocalypse, at our website at www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Part 2, the interview with Mike from around the world, as today the CERN is being turned all the way up for the final burn, 99.9% of the speed of light. They are going to collide these protons. Stephen Hawking is begging them, don't do it. We don't know what the implications could be. Could it create an Earth implosion? Or could it create demonic entities, as Russ Dizdar and myself are very concerned will be let out of the pits of hell? Is this a portal being opened by the witchcraft satanic spirit dancing with the devil? It's going on in Switzerland at the CERN. Let's go now to part 2 of the interview with Mike from around the world. It does. It loosens up the inhibitions. You're saying similar to, let's say, drugs or alcohol could do, because it's affecting maybe the frontal lobe. It's the pineal gland. Maybe is the subconsciousness of the human soul. And so when we get into that, we have to also look into the demonic side of this thing. That if we are literally cracking open hell's gates, letting something crawl from the abyss, it's, when I look in the Bible, I always go right back to the Word and say, is there anything like that in the Bible? And then I see, well, yeah, it says that Apollyon or Abaddon will come out of the bottomless pit. It will be released. It's like, release McCracken. You're opening up the hell's gates, and could CERN be the mechanism that the Bible refers to the bottomless pit opening? Could it be the CERN that turns the lock that unlocks the door?
I tell you what, Pastor, it's think about this. When every time you see violence, there are two constants that people have. One is accusation, right?
Yeah.
And the other is a type of depression. But the accusation part, even in Ferguson, all the things in Ferguson and the other cities that had the problem, what were they doing? They were accusing somebody else. Well, who is the accuser of the brethren?
Well, it's Lucifer. It's Lucifer himself. Yes.
That's right. And every time they have one of these riots, the root cause
is accusation.
It's an accusation. And so about every time these inbound accusational spirits come into play, something has happened with CERN. And so people begin to act out Lucifer's characteristics in the world. They essentially themselves become portals, because they throw caution to the wind. Their decision-making is a little off. They begin to give into the flesh, and it does cause a physical effect to the flesh, because this body is physical, intimately tied to the forces of reality. But the spirit can override anything. Our souls can override the flesh. But they won't do it. And so accusation begins to take root. So when a person gets irritated and aggravated, and they ever begin to point and accuse, well, then that's Lucifer's influence on them. This CERN facility has been plagued with deep darkness that shouldn't be discussed. Things have happened to people. Scientists have been replaced. Other facilities connected to it have paid the price of certain research findings. People around the area they try to get rid of. Pastor, they try to have a buffer zone around the CERN facility.
And the reason they want a buffer zone is because they know they can't contain all of the energy. There's a certain percentage of energy that the tube can't contain, the machine can't hold, the tunnels can't keep captive. The 300 feet under the earth is not enough. We're not talking about an explosion here, and I'm not even talking about the implosion here. Just there is certain magnetic field disruptions that cannot be contained even 300 feet under the ground. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
That's correct, and it could affect everything from the atmosphere to the Earth itself, but the biggest effect of this will be violence. It's going to be violence, and it's not an immediate effect like tomorrow. I don't believe it's going to cause an immediate effect. There have been other teams involved with residue of what CERN is doing, the after effects, and normally what it does is that it causes a person to think darker, to think darker thoughts, and strange thoughts will enter into their minds, and it begins to cause suicide rates go up and everything else. Ever since they began the CERN experiment, violence has spiraled out of control throughout the Earth. Every time they do one of these experiments, ISIS seems to grow. These are correlations the average person probably won't make. But one of the biggest impacts of this thing is spiritual. But number two, the reality is this: if they disrupt the weight of the Earth, everybody's in trouble. The Earth will begin to shake and things will begin to change. And that weight difference, although not immediate, it will gradually begin to take effect over the course of maybe 20 or 30 days. And then people will find out, because all the magma chambers will be let loose. And they really talk about volcanic eruptions all over the place.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Could there be a pole shift? Can CERN create a pole shift? Maybe not a total flip, but could it move the Earth 5 degrees? Could the magnetic field shift a little just simply from CERN?
Well, if somehow they created an implosion, which did something to the particles or affected the core of the Earth, then the Earth could, in fact, it could shift due to external forces. Now, they can't do it all by themselves. It would take external forces to do this. But we do have external forces that could operate in tandem with this. So that could be a very real occurrence. Although, again, I'm not really worried about that. I really don't see anything out of this.
You see more violence
going to the speed of light.
Yeah, you're more concerned about mankind's reaction from this. The more violence among animals, more violence among the human race, the human consciousness, the human soul being affected more than you are the Earth itself being affected.
Yes, I am. Because of it is, when mankind is affected this way, and again, the cosmonauts did go up in space earlier in the space years.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the replicator of the magnetic shield, and both of them were lost forever. They lost their minds, their neurological connections broke. Some of the birds that they have diagnosed that fell to the Earth, guess what? Their neurological connections were broken.
Yeah.
They essentially went insane. Something happened to their nervous system. And this same thing can happen again if they mess up the Earth's geomagnetic field. Well, then it's going to affect the behavior of people in a very large way. And when people lose their own connection, if the spirit and soul are divided, Pastor, then demonic entities can pour into that person.
All right, I
and
agree.
We will essentially become the doorway.
I agree. Let's talk about the waves of energy. Tomorrow, next Monday, this is the 17th of August, and of course you've shared with us numerous times that there's 5 waves of energy. The first one's a ripple. It's a disturbance in the heavens. It's what the scripture says. Jesus said it in Luke chapter 21 when he said that for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. We know that Paul wrote about it in Hebrews 12 and he said, I will shake both the earth and the heavens, and everything else that doesn't remain will be shaken loose, basically. I take that spiritually. So we definitely, you said there'd be extreme straight line winds. We've had them. You said there would be large hail. We had hail almost bring down a plane last Friday. You said that there would be uptick in volcanism. We're on pace to break the record for volcanic eruptions in a year. You said there'd be more earthquakes. We're on pace to break the record for over 6.0 earthquakes in a year. All of the things you said would, if we see these things increasing, then we know that this first ripple was even stronger than we thought. Mike, are we going to feel anything in the next 6 days as this thing comes ashore, basically?
You know what, Pastor? It's very possible, and here's the way it's going to work. when it's going to enter, the effect of that wave is going to enter the solar system on the 17th. In the 17th, they're going to be tracking. It's very strange how they have to track this, because it's not actually something a person can. Well, let's just call it a band, or let's just call it a tiny, 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 tiny wave. And so it will make its way from the outer band of our solar system inwardly. As it comes inwardly, the small one, the effects of what it's having on the other planets, the probes, so on and so forth, will be measured. When it hits Ceres, they're going to measure the certain things about this small ripple coming through. One of the cautions that I gave watching volcanic activity was an indicator that the forces behind this thing are a little more than what was once thought. And as it gets closer, it's more compact. We've been feeling certain effects from this small ripple already, but it's just the energy. And as the core or the body of this thing passes us, now remember, it's tiny. As it passes us, it could literally be, something pretty major or nothing at all. No one still knows, and the only way to find out if it's going to have an effect on Earth was to watch volcanic activity. Because volcanic activity is number one, it's normally controlled by or yielded by the core of the Earth. So what's happening inside the Earth just about always reveals itself in the form of volcanism.
Okay.
And so if the energy levels inside the Earth and the activity inside the Earth are in fact increasing, well then volcanism will begin to rise, and this is what we've seen.
Okay.
So again, I certainly have no clue of what will happen when this thing comes through. It could be a very passive event, or it could be damaging.
Now, part 3 of this interview, I will ask Mike, what is the source? What is the cause of the 5 waves of energy? What is creating this disturbance in the heavens, which the Bible does say? Jesus said there will be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, and men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after those things coming upon the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. That's the exact quote from Jesus Christ. Matter of fact, Paul says in the book of Hebrews chapter 12, I not only will shake the earth, but the heavens also. I'm just going to say to you, I'm going to ask Mike this question, and his answer is fascinating. You'll have to watch this in the next video, part 3, the CERN.